Hello, everybody. Welcome back. You're watching Making Life Brighter, and we have returned special guest, scramjet scientist, super artist, and ultimate visionary, Mr. Kirk Bradley. Thank you for coming back and being with us here on Making Life Brighter. Woohoo! Welcome.
It's so good. It's so good to see you again. Thank you, Winifred, for all you do, the good things you do in the world. You just briefly, I got to tell the audience, you're real. You are. I've seen you in action. That's cool.
Thank you.
She deserves some kudos. So other than that, we'll get rolling.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, last time we saw each other, the very last time we were in Malibu, but before that, I got the honor of receiving some of your artwork right there from your studio at your house in Denver. And I'm just so honored. I mean, that is just a gift beyond giving, because your artwork is something that is dimensional. It emanates frequency. It's got vision in it. And so let me just, before I build your ego too much, which I know I could never do, let me just introduce you properly to the audience that hadn't heard you before on our Voice America shows. Kirk has been a scramjet rocket scientist for NASA with security clearances. He's been an expert in physics. He has 3 degrees. He has been the manager of water reclamation plants, and he has patents pending for some of his amazing scientific work. He is a guy that, and I love this, still reads the dictionary, still reads encyclopedias, and yet he is a cutting edge visionary, an artist. And one of his pet projects, and I say pet projects, near and dear to his heart, has been transforming water, which is how it got him over to Afghanistan in the military and then back again. So Kirk, when we last met, we were in Malibu. You came down, we had a really fun meeting. We had a great time, and you were going through sort of a revisit to your return to the West Coast. Let's jump in and talk about that right out the door.
Oh my goodness, that was fun. I remember it was right back where a lot of things started, and then we had, back in 2008 when all that stuff happened, and then I decided to go get my thoughts collected in Afghanistan as a civilian water quality specialist. Then I came back and you took me back to ground zero, which I thought was, I guess I just had to go back to ground zero to figure that out.
Isn't that funny how that happens? Because you don't expect it. You just don't expect. I mean, I didn't purposely do that. It was just the powers that be lined up that meeting, and you came back to where you kind of began before all that, right?
Yes. I remember driving down Malibu Canyon, just starting to feel my PTSD panic attack for some reason. I thought, why am I feeling that? I'm sitting there heading to the ocean, and but it's all worked out good. That was about 2018 or so, 19. And since then, so much has happened. And
you've just come out with a book. You've just completely launched your latest amazing artwork, which is including his artwork. And I have to see if I can share it here. Can you see it? Oh, yes. This is an amazing book, and everybody needs to go get this book. But before we get into that, because there's so much to you, there's so many facets to who you be, that I want to kind of touch on how you've healed yourself, first of all, and the fact that you're writing this amazing book on quantum, and you've had these visionary experiences that you draw in and express through your artwork. So let's talk a little bit about your healing journey first up, coming off of being rocket scientist, coming off of going to Afghanistan and getting PTSD and coming home. Now you're healing. How did you do it?
Well, I try to surround myself with pine trees, the mountains, digging into my art, kayaking, and most of all, surrounding myself with love and good things, and not focusing on the bad stuff. It's just what everybody needs to do. And so when I got back, I just started. I thought, well, I'm going to take a break here. I just got off the rodeo of running a commercial R&D company for 13, 14 years, and back when 2008, we ended up building the facility down there. That's why I say we were back full circle around the Malibu area. And then 2008 kind of scrambled everybody, and then everybody goes their way, and you get PTSD from business also.
I'd say
you get it from life. I probably came in there with a little bit, but then you go into a war zone, and I kept as a water quality specialist civilian, I volunteered to get in as deep as I could, embedded. I ended up on Fob Tillman, which was right on the border of Pakistan, and we had incoming a lot, and it was quite an experience for a civilian engineer artist that really didn't have the military training stuff, but I adapted, and then we got hit a few times, more than I'd like, and I came back, and I decided, well, I'm just gonna retire. And so that didn't work very long for me. I just started oil painting again, and I just kept getting these new ideas and visions of things. And when I was over there in Afghanistan, I kept thinking of all the water quality issues and the power and generation. I kept getting these downloads of equipment that I had never designed before. And so I thought, so I'd write down notes now and then, and I came back, and it just really started flooding on me. But some of the things I'd see, they were all so deep into 3D and so unusual. I would have to paint them before I could do the blueprint, because it was all coming at me at once in 3D or 3D2, I'm calling it, because I actually think it was just downloads from the Akashic. I didn't know what that was at the time, but so as a scientist, nobody wanted to really be the alien guy, and so we didn't talk about that very much, and now I don't care. We just talk about whatever we need to.
Total surrender. Yeah, I don't care. What about the aliens? Anyway, but you had many experiences in these downloads that were kind of otherworldly. They were not normal. So let's jump into one of your downloads that came to you and one of the paintings that's significant for you.
Well, the one that was most significant when I first got back, I'm calling it the Creation Garden, and it seems to be the base for most everything we're doing. I saw this otherworldly environment with our existing world in the sky, and all these etheric beings around and doing their thing. And it turned out to be, after thinking about it and looking at it long enough, it was showing the mother planet, the one that where all the creations are emanating from. What I don't understand at all. But I ended up with a series of about 5 or 6 different paintings that all fit into what I was thinking. And all this time I'm writing down and jotting down ideas. They usually come about 3 o'clock in the morning. And I'd get them, and then I started, the engineering drawings were so complex, I'd see them in 3D and they'd be kind of in motion. And so I had to put them in art before I could even draw them. So I'm doing this for about 3 or 4 years, still thinking I'm retired.
Now, this is no ordinary
I
hobby
can't
for
stop.
people, though, right? I mean, sorry, but this is people's, people don't just sit down and drum up these kinds of sketches, because these are in your book. And when people get your book, they can see what we're talking about. It's kind of a compilation of coffee table, visionary, your next step, and all the things that happened to you along the way. And this is an amazing set of blueprints. I'm really glad you put these in the book. So carry on, please.
Well, I kind of had to, some of the stuff, patents, I've got some patents on some other water power technologies, 4 of them specifically, and then we were recycling plastics, but they take so long to get. And then all this nonsense started happening in 2019. And, I've got friends that are dropping like flies and getting sick, and people are, not wanting to go to meeting centers and things like that. So I got to thinking, I took this year of solace, and I got so many downloads in the drawings. I got about 10 more blueprints drawn up and 3 more oil paintings. And then I'm sitting there thinking, what happens if I check out? And just because I'm really healthy, I go all the time, I'm never sick. I mean, that's really kind of cool. And I wasn't killed with conventional weapons in Afghanistan. So I figured I'd make it through this, but I thought, well, what happens if something happens to me? So I thought, you know what, heck with it. I'm just going to put all my drawings that to try to inspire people, all of the artwork that's associated with it, which has symbols within symbols, and all the blueprints. And I'm going to throw it into this book, and I'm going to put it out there for the world. And I want to inspire people to look at these drawings and go, wow, we've got 3 different engine systems here. We've got all this stuff that equates to healing modalities, and it's all associated with these visions from the Akashic. I got to get this out there. So, and I had never really written a book except, engineering manuals and things like that in the past, and EPA programs, and just, I've always been very focused that way. So I'm writing this book, and it's coming to me in these downloads that are like 2-paragraph sentences, and it's just, this is coming out of nowhere. So I just put ... and then I got some really good editors, thank goodness, that helped me. And these gals really put it together so it was English. And so here we have it. So it's so hard to explain, without me pointing at diagrams. And
let's break it down a little bit, because let's jump into your vision.
Everybody's
okay. We'll talk about what this Nexus Rising really is.
Okay.
First of all, this is the walking dream of the quantum. And let's just put it out there real quick. Where can people get this book? How can they obtain this?
They can tap into the website. You can just order it, on the internet. And it's through our website. It's Quantum Nexus LLC, and just tap into there,
www.quantumnexus LLC. You cut out there for a second. So, yeah. And here's something
quantumnexuslc.com.
Okay. quantumnexuslc.com. So here's some of what he says, and this is so powerful. I think this is important. I'm just going to read it. Okay. Why is the question you're begging? Okay. We're a world in need of visionary solutions based on higher awareness and advanced technologies. We're all suffering the consequences and damages created by non-integral practices of every kind. The multiverse is unselfishly offering us ancient and timely knowledge so that we can do our part. We have now entered into the long-awaited great epoch of transition and ascension of mankind. And so our entire planet needs to shift to higher consciousness. And I love that. I just love that you are talking about that. Now, what is this? You are talking about creating an immersion environment for people that helps them heal on a cellular and conscious level, and that it can manifest in all dimensions. And so this is a powerful twist. But so with COVID, people don't have to go out to do this eventually. But the book itself, which is what we're focusing on today initially, incorporates not only your artwork, but the stories of the visions that you had, how you went through your healing, the movement of all the architecture that you saw, including the engines and the blueprints that you're talking about. And this is all what, free energy? Let's talk about some of the science and the technology behind that in the blueprints for a minute. Explain some of the purpose in these blueprints that you've created.
Well, boy, that would be a hard job to do without my blueprints to point at, but it's just
Just
the way
let's
I
talk about
am,
it's
the way I'm hardwired.
energy, right? I mean, we're talking
It,
about the
it,
flow of
I,
energy.
I, okay, I don't really want to call it free energy right now because they'll probably let's just plug it in and have some fun and be surprised. But there's
Okay. The
wait,
experience.
shut us down as we're building. Yeah, well, running commercial R&D, we had some really nice surprises, and it's very sound-based technologies. What we were trying to do was just create an immersive environment to help people get it together. I realize the way the world is right now with everything in transition and how it is, there's a lot of people that have had damage one way or another, whether it's in business, whether it's in war, whether it's just life in general. We need to all work together on making this work out right for us. And so within the book, I was highly persuaded into writing more about my life than I wanted to, but it was the example that we needed to take of riding high in the world of business and doing the great things we did and the really positive things, to totally, collapsing in 2008, deciding you just wanted to go to the war and figure out what's going on, and then getting back on your feet again with a whole new outlook. And it kind of takes you for a few pages onto that path. And during that time frame, I was meeting people like you, and because I was always the one that I don't know, I just called everybody crystal people because I really didn't know what it was that everybody had, and because I was, like I said, as a scientist and an engineer, there's a blending of things you can prove and things you can't prove. And instead of calling it metaphysical, I'm calling it the quantum physical, because right now science and engineering is catching up to religion, or whatever you want to call it, and religion is catching up to science and engineering, and there has to be that commingling of things. Yeah, the duality is there, because otherwise you're just ignoring things that happen.
Well, let's
I
talk
bring
about
out a lot of that stuff into the book.
You do. Let's talk a little bit of specifics. Let's talk about torsion fields for a minute. This is something that the new age crowd can definitely relate to, and the scientific crowd also can relate to. So let's jump into, why are torsion fields so integral to this structure in this book?
Well, they look like this. Can you see that?
Yes.
Okay. That right there pretty well sums up a lot of the technology we're working with. Do you notice that these look like your chakra fields inside your body? They go clockwise, counterclockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise, and they build up and run through you. What I've been learning and seeing through here and through the concepts that have been downloading to me is we have to create a balance internally to heal, and it's not always what you think. We're just bombarded with so many things. We wanted to create an immersion environment where your body could actually feel the primal itself in the primal nature, and within the centers, within some of the virtuosity program we're going to be doing, within some of the I'm calling them harmonic chambers, which the whole building is actually one of those, but we're going to make some small ones too. We can create these fields around human bodies, and then integrate other concepts into it, both virtually and through the equipment we've generated. We're calling them K coils, to create these torsion fields. And the blueprints are in the book, just to kind of show you how we're referencing this. But I think that's the key to getting our DNA to heal itself and to start generating the new stuff that we need to fix what's broken. And these cancers and discordant things that we're not designed to have, they're just happening to us right now. We're designed to heal ourselves, And we're providing an environment through cymatics, through visually, through thoughts, through teachings, through technology to help us focus the energies at certain points. I'm seeing a little bit of what's out there, and a lot of people, and I just started looking. I was just trying not to get clouded with what people think they could do. I just wanted to figure out what I could do first, and then go back and double check. And a lot of them are meshing up. Some of it's nonsense out there, and we got to filter through that, and that just is what it is.
Yeah, there's always a little bit of
some of the
that.
so-called science. Well, it's that in science too. I mean, it's everybody agrees upon what. Okay, this is the theory everybody's going to go for, and so let's be politically correct, and I'll jump on that. But that's not how I'm looking at this. I'm looking at it from
Well,
a.
you're
more
both
of
an artist
I
with a
guess if you've
download.
seen it-
You're an artist with a download. Sorry, we have a little delay in our feed here. But let's talk about a few of your visions, because I think they're primal to they're integral to the underpinning of what you're creating. You had some beings come to you in a healing session and then later again show up. Talk about your experience with these beings, these 6 beings.
You did read the book.
Yes, I did read the
Yes,
book.
I'll tell you, that was sure a surprise.
Why?
When I was in
Why?
that meditation, I didn't think that was going to happen. Not you reading the
Oh.
book. I figured you'd read the book. But
Thanks a lot.
but what I wrote about, it was like, oh my gosh, this is happening to me. I go into this center in the mountains, and this guy's doing, you know how and you have one of these beds that has the crystals on it also, and you kind of create a modality effect there. But he had some cymatics, and he had some other things that were associated with transducers and the lighting and stuff like that. And I started into a meditation in this center, and it started me. It took me back, showing me from when the earth was being created, and it was happening so fast with the organisms. You could feel their sentience. You could just see it. It was just happening like a fast forward of what was going on. These miraculous beasts would come up, and then a lot of them were from from the ocean. And then I just saw the earth be built, and then there it was. And then all of a sudden, in the center of the meditation, and I'm laying on this bed, these other things started happening to me where I've never had it happen before. And I had to keep opening my eyes to see if someone was really there. When I opened my eyes, I didn't see him, but when I closed them, there was some pretty cool things taking place. And then ending up at the end with the lighting changing, and you just have to read the book. It's like 30 pages I'm trying to describe right now, but I took
Well,
you on that vision.
You had
And
beings that came and stood around you, and that they revisited you again later, right?
yes, they did. Yes, they did. And so I could go down lots of stories of things happening about like that, but I want you to see some of the science too, so you don't think I'm just. This is pretty out there.
Oh, it's not out there.
Really,
You've combined the science so well in this book with your artwork. I think it's a no-brainer for people, and we'll get into the science, but I want to set the ground for the fact that you had this vision and it reoccurred to you. So it's not just something you drummed up. You didn't even know that it could be, and then it happened, and that
and then it
convinced
kept
you.
adding to it, and they'd add to it, and I'd see more stuff, and I'd get more paintings, and it was usually after a sound meditation or around a solstice or time like that when we did those meditations, which I was new at, also of the centers. But from 2018 on, it's been just a whole series of engineering downloads, coupled with the painting on this most recent painting, The Eye of the Nexus, where I described the 30 points that we're going to be walking through virtually, and all the technology. I it that way, and then do the blueprints from there. And we were ready to set up this center in Alaska, and then COVID hit, and just shut down the tourist industry, because it was in Ketchikan, and we were going to go up along the Alaskan Marine Highway and have 3 different centers. They were building a $50 million dock there for these super cruisers, and it was getting ready to roll, and this baby just popped. And so for that year, I thought, well, that kind of messed that up. Because I went up there 3 times, we got it all set up and ready to go. And so I thought, well, I'm just going to paint and hike. And that's when it really started hitting. I had a whole year of solace where I didn't have to worry about business or anything. And I got tenfold out of it. So it was really a blessing. We turned it into something cool. And then I started thinking, well, what if something happens to me and I don't get this off? I'm going to get these blueprints out. I'm going to get the associated art out, so someone can take the ball and run with it if something happens to me, which I'm not expecting. But so I just outsourced it, and I put it out and said, okay, if you guys want to get involved with this, here's the blueprints. I'm showing you we're real. I talked about the history of it. We talk about some of the modalities, how it works, the theories of some of this stuff, how we're commingling science and the quantum physical. And it was the best I could do to explain it, for the next stages. And now we're going to do some of this quantum virtuosity stuff to make up while we get the centers built. So but it's really cool. Go ahead.
We understand the artist portion of you, but how does the scramjet scientist factor into this entirely? Like, how does that take hold in this vision that involves torsion fields and crystals and other things?
Well, besides creating some different engines that work inside there's also water and power technology here that can run this, that create the vortices that pull the hydrogen and oxygen off the water, and we turn around and burn that. And then we take the hydrogen and we run it through scramjet configurations and some little nozzles. We get that baby spinning, and there's really no there's no, this was used to be classified. I don't think it is anymore, because
we hope not.
Get it on the internet but scramjet engines have a theoretical, they just keep going. You compress shock waves and there's no moving parts, and you just change the geometry of it, and you can get stuff going really fast. That's what these, it was the X-30 plane that I worked on. Now it's X-48, and they're using them in space now. That's been that space plane that was up there for a couple of years, but I was the test engineer on that and running all the hot firing tests in the late 80s on that to get it to that point. But I just you just take some of the stuff that's out there and you connect the dots, from water technology to aerospace technology to just standard civil engineering technology and mechanical, and it just, you put the pieces together and you've got all these new inventions. And I was too impatient to wait 5 years for the patent office, like last time. So let's get it out there, let's get it built. And I wanted to have these running within 3. And
yes,
there was just no way we could have done that. But yes, it creates, if you spin a conductor in a magnetic field, you're going to generate power, and you can do that in all kinds of configurations. And you get some pretty cool vortices being formed. These toroidal coils are magnificent. It's just
so.
Well, let me
since
just,
we are a toroidal field energetically, and that's kind of what runs our systems and our bodies. I want to ask you. I want to focus a little bit on a question I have after reading this book. What is selective focusing of gravity fields? What does that mean?
Microgravity fields. I think.
Let's talk gravity fields.
Based upon,
Let's talk gravity fields for a minute.
Gravity field. That's probably a little high level for this conversation.
Let's go there.
But it's based on some science that's being discovered, I think, and back there were some Russian scientists that just, a lot of this stuff just got buried. But I'm not sure how to start on this. Your bodies, I feel they're programmable. Let me get back to this. Before anything is created, it's created in a quantum field. Okay, in order, based on quantum physics, in order for anything to become real, it has to be observed, or it has to be thought, and then it manifests. I think there's a matrix in the background, the space between the space that has this inherent shapes of DNA and some of these other things, and they're controlled with microgravity, but they're also controlled with thought. And so, okay, if DNA genesis, it begins as a quantum waveform rather than a physical molecule, which through attractive forces it later evolves to. I'm just reading it through here. It does suggest that the universe is inherently composed of a matrix of background wave pattern complex that has the ability to form a physical replica of such ambient wave patterns with baryonic matter, which is atoms. And so DNA interactively works with these informational waves and microgravities included into this, but this is
No, we can go there. No, because this is, we have an intelligent audience here. I want to talk a little bit about the dimensions. You talked about 11 dimensions in this book, and you even talked about decahedrons and things like that. So how in a two-stranded DNA field does the 11 dimensions then come back into play for optimizing in these structures and what you're trying to do? Is the 11 dimensions something we're seeking to get to, or is the 11 dimensions something that you're showcasing exactly exists and we are within?
I think it's the latter. It does exist. I firmly believe that we, well, I wrote it better here on these, the powers available to us are proportional to our proven abilities to be wise. And so, you know, a lot of this stuff is going to just be happening as we go along. But we have to do this in steps, how we're evolving through these alternate dimensions. And so right now we're kind of stuck here working with the 3D. We're slowly evolving, or have been, but now it's increasing. And so you're going to see a lot of cool stuff happening there. I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, you say in the book here, technically there's no such thing as empty space. Particles of space exist in a set structure interlinked within a support network of matrix of attraction giving space structure, like crystal lattices. It's estimated that there are 10 to the 99 of these space particles within a cubic centimeter. The space between these particles remains a mystery within the quantum vacuum. Is it, or is it sound particles? Is there really a vacuum? What's the quantum vacuum?
That's a term we use to describe what we think is empty space.
Yeah.
And it's really not.
So in your paintings and in your work, you found through these visions, in other words, you're proving otherwise that this is filled with energy. It's filled with, like, the blueprint to your DNA is what you're bringing forward through your paintings, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And it's also the cause for the expansion of the universe. This quantum vacuum, there's stuff popping in and out of there constantly. They're virtual particles, and people are wondering where they're coming from. That's the 11th dimension we're talking about. It's the top dimension, and that's where it's the motherverse of motherverses, and there's just budding taking place. And if people would only realize the process of panspermia, which was proposed years ago by scientists, this is how this is happening. The universe is expanding, all this stuff's budding from these other places. Most everything's already been designed. We have to create it through our thoughts here, manifest it here, and bring it forth. But there's no such thing as empty space. There's stuff popping in and out all the time. And however that ends up being anchored into this dimension is through our thoughts. And so we got to control those, because we're anchoring some bad things too. So that's, yeah, you just dug, I knew you were going to do this. You dug right into the deep meat of the book. It's like,
Sorry.
I'm an engineer. I have to wave my hands around, show diagrams, and then flip through PowerPoint. And
I
you're
love
asking
this
me
book.
stuff like it's just off the top of my head.
But it is.
Okay, go ahead. But
It is kind of. I
know.
mean, this is stuff that we talk about, and I'm totally fascinated because I see it in the matrices inside people's bodies when I go into their systems for healing. So your blueprints look very familiar to me inside of a system, and the energy vortices of a system when you're looking at body systems, and then when you move up through the dimensions, you see the shift and the change of that. But anyway, I think it's fascinating, and I think what you're doing is so brilliant. And your artwork finally has made a place where people can open up and see it. It is so beautiful. It is so inspired. And I gooed about it on the last show that we did, but I'm going to goo about it again right here, because seriously, some of your work is just completely, it's just beautiful. It speaks of color and that erupting nature within the DNA. It's the color of, I'm going to say it this way, it's kind of the color of sound. And I say that because that's how I see it, right? You don't see sound, but that is how I see it.
Yes, you do see sound. You just saw it.
Yeah.
So you saw it. Yeah. And if you notice, when you took me on that meditation, which I'd never been on, to the central sun back when we were in Malibu, and we were just kind of wrapping up our meeting and stuff that night by the fire and the pool and stuff, I described that in the book, and then I painted it as it's the top ceiling. It's that crystal matrix, and that's the same thing I saw in that healing session, and it was the same. That's why I said I saw it twice. But it was that night. So, and I just had to get that painted, and that's going to be in the center of the eye of the nexus, which is the building we'll be doing. Oh, and that one, yeah, that's just
the organic stargate. Wombs begin with all are born. This is bananas. It's what's neat about your work is that here you are, this scientific masculine, balancing into the art form of divine feminine, and yet pulling all the multiverse into this at the same time and commingling it. Like you have a decahedron in this picture, I believe, right? Am I correct? It's a beautiful.
Yes, and when I looked into that, there's Merkabas that are in there too that are very critical, and they're also part of our DNA. But when I'm looking into, when I'm painting this and seeing these visions, and I look back into the dodecahedron is supposed to be the edges of our universe as it expands, and I didn't know that, but it just showed up in what I saw that night, and so I put it in the painting. Then it turns out to be the edges of our universe, and so I'm seeing all these things that are coming together after I research in this world I've never been in, because I was always basically just hard science engineer and coming up with new ideas, and I didn't really think this was coming from other areas. But if I look back at it as a little kid, it always has been coming that way, but I never knew it until recently.
What a gift.
It's usually expressed in art first, and so that's why I put that. I also talk about the creation of the universes and how we were all quantum originally, we've always been an intelligence, that we've always existed. We're eternal that way. And then we're taking on different forms of matter. I'm calling it etheric, less, well, it's not physical. I'm just calling it spiritual matter for no other reason. We go from the quantum to the spiritual matter to the physical matter, where we're at now. And our next level of transition is the interlinking forever of those things, plus the powers that go with it to be creators. Because light, under certain conditions, can create matter. And so therefore, if we are light beings, are we not creators? And so this is the way we have to approach it. We're at a point now, on a precipice right now, here on this earth and in humanity, where we have a chance to really accelerate logarithmically with our powers, with our ability to help do good, and join the galactic community, and not be afraid to talk about it. Because there's life everywhere in the universe. It's everywhere.
Yes, there
it's
is.
Designed in the matrix of this background empty space for life to evolve. The helix is in there. It's in that.
Okay, I have a question for you.
So,
do you believe in flat Earth?
In what?
Flat Earth. Do you believe in the flat Earth concept?
Earth?
Mm-hmm. No. That's a no.
Probably gonna piss some people off.
You what?
Why don't you ask Elon?
Oh.
Why don't you ask Elon about that?
Yeah, that's okay.
No,
I'd like to see Elon clean up the Earth before he goes to outer space.
I can't.
That's okay.
No, yeah, I was just kidding about him.
What in your book?
Is. I don't know what you mean by flat Earth, except it's not. It's only flat when I'm walking on it. But
Okay, so
if you keep going one direction and you don't have to swim, you can end up back in the same place. I think they call that a sphere or a circle, or so I'm just going to go with that,
okay,
without offending people too much. But
that's good. That's good.
There's just no science to that. Sorry, I had to say it.
So I'm with you. I'm not a flat Earth believer, and that'll probably get a lot of people upset, but I don't really care. The golden age of transition. Let's talk about the golden age of transition. What is that?
Right now.
Right now?
It's all these things. It's all this knowledge and new things. We're into a new portion in space in our galaxy, as the galaxy is moving along and it's time for this transition to take place. We're going to get flooded with downloads from the Akasha. We're just pouring into it. It's like we're heading for a meteor shower of knowledge, and our Earth is flowing into it. And I firmly believe, because it's been happening to me, it's accelerated tenfold, and those that are listening are going to pick up on it. And that's what this book's about. It's not trying to convince anybody of anything except to do good, be unselfish, never do less than you can, and to do good things. And it's showing pathways. I wanted to inspire people with some of the things that I've seen, and some of the majesty and grace of this huge, wonderful multiverse we're in, and how we can tap that knowledge for whatever field we're good at, or whatever field we're going to get good at. It's coming, and now's when it's flooding. And so we're trying to collect through this manuscript to get some people that are like-minded to maybe jump on the team with us somehow, and help us make this happen. It's really not about the black Ferrari we all want right now. This is about something else, even though, yes, you need money to function, but that's not what this is about. This is about changing the Earth the best we can, and the best way we're going to do that is if we heal ourselves first.
Well, I think that you're onto something
because
amazing.
the rest of it comes. And so I hope
you're definitely moving into a transitional phase as we go into the golden age. And you were talking in your book about setting the controls for the heart of the sun, and I really love that idea. I love that concept, because we've been doing some of our journeys out to the plasma of the sun and moving in and out of the sun, and it's it's a trip, but it's really becoming what I'll call present with the intelligence and the vibratory frequency that's coming from the sun, however you want to interpret that. So what is your take on how the sun impacts us?
Well, it's immense. We don't even understand it. We think we've got the core figured out. We don't. It's a new kind of engine. It's a different kind of engine. We don't understand the physics. We don't. And that's why I put in here, I put a whole page where you put who set the controls for the heart of the sun. Well, this is what I put. Well, it's a well-known fact that stars are engines that produce chemical elements that produce energy also. But it's not a well-known fact
Oh, you're cutting out there.
it does this. And yeah, and it just, it's on page 86 in the book, and you can see, but that is one of the lucid meditations I saw August 2019. That was the one I was talking about down in Malibu. And I had seen that previously in what I described before. And then I saw it again. It's like, wow, that must be what it looks like when you're standing on a crystalline sphere on the surface of a transmuted planet, and you look up and there's this crystalline sphere. And so that's how we're going to do the dome. And what's really cool when we build these centers, I've got it to where we're going to be able to have nebula up in the sky of the building, where we're in this meditation room, and the technology we can do with some of the particles of the magnetic fields, and how we can get the special effects. We're going to take people on such a trip through here.
You don't need drugs anymore. You just need to go into this and immerse yourself, right?
Yeah, and I'm calling it mushrooms without mushrooms, and so it's going to be so unreal for everybody. And I'm not into drugs, but it's going to be so well, it's going to be a lot of fun. Very visual, very visual.
I want to share some of the blueprints of his work. If you can see this, it's hard to do it this way, but these blueprints are amazing. And I think it's cool that you added this in here, honestly, because it shows a lot of sacred geometry and the elements that go into things, but it's helping people wake up and recognize what's really in our earth around us. I mean, we have the crop circles and those things which keep showing up similar to these kind of visions you're having. It's a similar patterning, and the patterning has some kind of stasis to it, right? It's harmonizing.
It does. It does. It's everywhere around us, and it's just here. We don't really have to invent much. All we got to do is look at nature and look at the things around us, and then apply them in the ways that are for our advantage, and have mutual respect with the earth and everything else we're doing. This is kind of a no-brainer once you really think about how we can live symbiotically together in this one unit, because we are all connected quantumly. Yes, we're individuals, but we're all linked to the same thing. The elements in our body are third generation stars. That it had to have 3 stars be built, explode, reform, explode again, for the human body to have the right level of elements for us to enter into for this physical body. So we've been around for billions of years. This is not our first rodeo, any of us, and we're all connected because it came from the same third generation stars. We are all connected to these elements, which makes us all brothers and sisters and connected one way or but so
I have another question for you then. Do you believe in God?
Yeah. I believe in gods. I believe it just keeps going up. If you want to call them that, I call them creators. I call them prime creator, the intelligence, or the, I don't know. People have all kinds of names for it, but whatever. Yeah, yeah.
A source
There's,
greater than yourself,
well,
essentially.
things have to be observed for them to take form. So someone has to observe it. So whatever you want to call that entity that makes you feel comfortable. Some people have a problem with that word nowadays. I don't.
Yeah.
But I don't know what else to call it except prime creator or God or the gods or yeah, it's just whatever makes you feel comfortable. But somebody's there, and there's more than and it's
Somebody's
lots of levels.
accounting for you right now. Somebody's got you. Well, Kirk, I am so happy that you've come to visit us. And
what it boils down to here.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say something goofy. Judgment Day, if you want to go on that, it's going to be all the dogs you've had, and that's who's going to be judging you. They're going to be sitting there, and you're going to show up. They're going to start talking at you if you were nice to them or not.
Yeah, right.
I'm just being weird,
Exactly. Well, here it is again, if y'all can see this. Okay. And you can get this again
That's
at
a good view. But I want people to know we're not forming a religion here. We're not. It's just truth is truth. You can call it whatever you want, but it's just accumulation of truths, and we're talking about
and
it.
science.
And I'm showing you that we're real. We've got the science. We've got the quantum physical, and we've got the spiritual aspect. All three of them have to be included, and we're gonna be amazed what we find on the way.
Well, I love your journey,
So
and I'm a fan of your artwork, and I'm in awe of the science that sits in this book. So you can get this book again from www.quantumnexusllc.com, correct?
Yes, and we apologize for the minimum website, but we're
all right. It's in the book. Just go to quantumnexusllc.com.
Yes.
And thank you so much. We've had a little bit of sound delay here, but I'm sure people will get through it. The Walking Dream of the Quantum, Forever Evolving by Kirk Bradley. Thank you for coming back and chatting with us. We'll have you on again as soon as the next steps take place, and we'll see where we end up there and how far along we are at that point.
Sounds good, Winifred. Thank you so much for your time, for all the good things you do. And we're moving along here with some new stuff. We'll talk about more blueprints later.
Absolutely.
Hey,
I love
thanks
it.
Again.
I love it. You guys are listening to Making Life Brighter. Go ahead and share. This is Kirk Bradley. He's a rocket scientist, top NASA person, AKA super visionary and artist, now author of The Walking Dream of the Quantum, right here on Making Life Brighter. Thank you for listening. Go jolly, everybody. We'll see you next time.